السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه من والاه. ثم أما بعد. We will continue our class that is dedicated for the sisters, which is going over the book الأجوبة الوادعية على الأسئلة النسائية, the answers of Sheikh Muqbil bin Hadi al-Wad'i rahimahullah regarding questions that came from women. And before we forget, may Allah reward my brothers at Sunnah Saga and Sunnah Scene for organizing this class and for having me on their platforms, on their channels, to speak and teach our sisters. And also may Allah reward all the sisters and brothers who are tuning in and listening in. And before we start, we will take a couple of before we start with the book, inshallah, we will take a couple of questions from our sisters. And one question that came from the sisters is, it says, what is the ruling regarding a single woman traveling due to work obligations? What are the boundaries in which she can travel? And then it goes on to ask more questions. So as for this specific question, we say, afwan, in regards to this question, we say, first of all, a woman who is traveling, a single woman traveling due to work obligations, it doesn't mention if she is traveling with a mahram or without a mahram, with a male relative, unmarriable male relative, or without an unmarriable male relative. In general, we say that a woman is not allowed to travel without a male relative, without an unmarriable male relative or her husband. In this case, the sister said that a single woman. So from that perspective, she is single, she doesn't have a husband. So is she allowed to travel without a male relative, unmarriable male relative, without a mahram? No, she is not. So she must have an unmarriable male relative to travel, in order to travel. However, what can be done is that her relative can take her to the place where she's going to stay and work, with the assumption that she's going to stay there. So he can take her, and when she arrives, for example, she's going to stay with some sisters, say any roommates, any good sisters, and I recommend for her and for everyone to be amongst good companions. So in her case, she should try to find good sisters that she stays with. So he can take her, her relative can take her, and she stays with those sisters. And when she wants to come back home or to where she is from, again, he himself or another male relative can bring her back. So this way she is not traveling alone, and someone is actually traveling with her to the place where she's going to work, and she can remain in that place for as long as she needs to, and then she can come back without disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Now, what are the boundaries? What is the distance? The people of knowledge, they say there is no specific distance in regards to travel and what is considered a travel, and rather what the people consider to be a travel is that distance. So some places, for example, in depending on where the person is, there could be a city and there could be surrounding cities, and those surrounding cities might be completely connected to that city. So in those cases where the city is right next to those surrounding cities, say for example you have a metro area and then you have suburbs, and those suburbs, the metro area extends all the way to those suburbs. So in that case, those suburbs are considered a part of that city, a part of that metro area, and going from the person from one city to another that are connected to each other, this is not travel. What is travel is for the person to leave the actual city, the area that he is in, and go on actual travel roads, so highways that take the person from one city to another, and those are roads of travel. This is something that is known. As soon as the person leaves the city and leaves the buildings of the city, then he is on a travel road. So that and so this is what is considered travel. This is what is considered travel. That the person, what the people consider to be travel is considered travel. Is considered that travel which a woman is not allowed to partake in without a mahram, without an unmarriable relative, male relative. And the question the sister continues to ask, what is the distance in which she is allowed to travel for work? Alhamdulillah, this has been answered. This woman is also poor and has no male providing for her. So again, the matter bi-idhnillahi ta'ala is easy. She can have some male relative, take her to the place of work where she can remain and work, and then when she needs to, he brings her back. Inshallah, there's no harm from that perspective. May Allah make things easy for this sister. And then the sister asked, also, is she exempted from performing Hajj because she has no mahram? The answer is yes. Yes, she is. If a woman does not have a mahram, does not have a male relative, is not married, or her husband is not in a position to travel with her, or likewise she does not have a male relative who would be able to take her to perform Hajj, then she is exempted from performing Hajj until she finds a male relative who would be willing and who is able to go with her. Now, otherwise, she is exempted. She is not obligated to perform Hajj because she does not have al-istita'a. وَحَجُّ الْبَيْتِ لِمَنِ اسْتَطَاعَ إِلَيْهِ سَبِيلًا. And the performance of Hajj to the house for one who is able to. So if she does not have a mahram, then she is not able to. Wallahu a'lam. We'll take one more question. Another sister is asking, are there differences between the prayer of a man and the prayer of a woman? For the most part, the prayer of the man and the prayer of the woman are the same. For the most part, there are no differences. Where the differences come in is, of course, the hijab, that the woman is obligated to cover her head and her hair when she's performing salah, and that she covers herself with the khimar. As the Messenger ﷺ, he said that a woman who is mature and who has reached the age of puberty is not allowed to pray without a khimar. She cannot pray without a khimar, which is the covering, the head covering. So she must cover herself and her head, and this is one of the differences between the prayer of the man and the prayer of the woman, which is one of the conditions of the prayer, that the woman must cover her head and wear the hijab, the proper hijab. Also, another difference is that the women, they do not have adhan, they do not make the call to the prayer, nor an iqama, and this is a stronger opinion of the people of knowledge, that they do not call for the prayer, nor do they make the iqama. They do not have adhan or iqama. And this is a matter of disagreement between the people of knowledge. And if one wants to study more on this topic, they can go back to the book of Imam al-Albani rahimahullah, Sifatu Salat al-Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or the books of the people of knowledge. Now, another difference is that the woman, she does not raise her voice in the prayers where the voice is raised if there are men in her presence. The woman is commanded when she is amongst men to not speak loudly and not beautify her voice and not soften her voice. And there's no doubt that the recitation of the Quran in it is the softening of the voice. So it is safer and better for the woman not to raise her voice, even in the salawat of al-Maghrib wal-Isha, al-Fajr wal-Maghrib wal-Isha, in which typically the person raises his voice. If she is praying by herself, or the only people that can hear her are her are females or are unmarriable males, relatives, or her husband, then she raises her voice. Just like the man, she raises her voice in those salawat, in Fajr, Maghrib and Isha. However, if she is praying and there are men who would hear her, such as she is in a public place, then she should not raise her voice. Now, this is another difference between the prayer of the woman and the prayer of the man. And other than that, for the most part, they are the same. Some of the people of knowledge, they talk about that the woman should close her body when she is praying and put her different limbs close to each other. And this is something that some of the people of knowledge, they say that this is from modesty, and other than that, however, there's no clear evidence. There's no evidence on that. So the stronger opinion is that she prays the same exact way that a man prays. Now, moving to our book, to continue our class, we will continue reading the book regarding the answers of Sheikh Muqbil to questions from the women. So we reached where the author rahimahullah, or the collector who collected those questions and answers, the question is ما هو العلم الشرعي الذي يجب على المرأة أن تتعلمه. This is an important question. What is the obligatory knowledge, legislative knowledge, which is obligatory upon the woman to learn? الشيخ مقبل رحمه الله, he said, الواجب عليها أن تتعلم عقيدتها من الكتاب والسنة. What is obligatory upon her is to learn her creed from the book and the sunnah, from the book of Allah and the sunnah of the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم. ثم صلاتها كيف صلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. And then her prayer. How did the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم pray? وإذا كانت ذات مال تتعلم ما أوجب الله عليها من الزكاة. And if she is a woman who has wealth, then she must learn that which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala obligated upon her from the zakah, from the giving of zakah. وإذا كانت تحترف بيعا أو شراء تتعلم أحكام البيع والشراء. And if she has a job, if she works, for example, in buying and selling, then she must learn the rules of buying and selling. وهكذا إذا كانت في أي عمل تزاوله. And likewise, if she has any type of job that she does, then فواجب عليها أن تتعلم أحكام ذلك العمل. It is obligatory upon her to learn the rules regarding that specific job that she does, meaning from the worldly affairs. قال فهذا هو المعني بحديث رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم طلب العلم فريضة على كل مسلم. This is what is meant from the statement of the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم. Seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim. طبعا في رواية ومسلمة, in a narration, and female Muslim, male or female Muslim. However, this narration is not authentic, and what is authentic is upon every Muslim, meaning male and female. However, specifying male and female in the text of the hadith is not authentic. نعم, رواية مسلمة لا تصح. قال وهكذا إذا كانت طبيبة. And likewise, if she was a doctor. قال likewise وهكذا كانت طبيبة. Likewise, if she was a doctor. يجب عليها, or a physician, يجب عليها أن تتعلم, يجوز لها أن تختلي بالرجال. She must learn. Is it permissible for her to be alone with men? وهل يجوز أن تداوي بوجود محرم? And is it permissible for her to treat the ill with presence of a male relative? لا بد من معرفة العمل الذي تزاوله من الكتاب والسنة. She must learn what is concerning her job from the Quran and the Sunnah. أعني أدلته, meaning the evidences regarding what she does in her job from the Quran and the Sunnah. لا أعني أنها تقتصر في طلب العلم على علم الكتاب والسنة. I do not mean that the only thing that she studies is the Quran and the Sunnah. نعم, meaning that she studies from the Quran and the Sunnah the evidences regarding what is permissible and what is impermissible in regards to the job that she does for a living. نعم. ثم السؤال الذي بعده, امرأة سألت بما تنصحون المرأة التي تعلم الناس كتاب الله. What do you advise the woman who teaches a woman who teaches women the book of Allah? فبعض النساء وخصوصا من العوام تخطئ في القراءة. Some of the women, especially from the common folk, the women, the sisters who are not learned and do not have the knowledge, they make mistakes in the recitation. ولا تنطق الكلمات بالتجويد كالإدغام والإخفاء. And they do not pronounce the words properly with the correct tajweed, with the correct recitation, such as the rules of idgham and ikhfa. Those are الإدغام والإخفاء طبعا هي من أحكام التجويد. Those are some of the rules of the recitation of the Quran, meaning the pronunciation of certain letters. أو حتى تنطق الكلمة غلطا, or even she pronounces the words incorrectly. وتحاول معهن بترديد الكلمة مرارا. And this sister, she attempts and she continues to try to teach them by making them repeat the words continuously. فبعضهن يصلحن الخطأ. Some of them, they correct the mistake. وبعضهن تظل على ما هي عليه. طبعا هنا يعني كتبوا تضل وهي تظل وليست تضل. And some of them, they remain upon what they are upon from the mistakes. And there is a typo in the book. فهل تأثم المعلمة لهن أفيدونا بارك الله فيكم. So is she held accountable? Is she considered having sinned because they did not learn properly and they remain upon the mistakes that they make? al-Sheikh rahimahullah قال ما تأثم إن شاء الله. He said no. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, she is not considered a sinner. She would not be sinning and disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. عفوا. بل الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول, rather the messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم says, خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه. The best of you are those who learn the Quran and teach it. ويقول في الدليل على أنها ما تأثم. And also as an evidence that she is not considered a sinner, that the messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم says, الماهر بالقرآن مع السفرة الكرام البررة. The one who is good in the recitation of the Quran and the Quran is easy for him to recite, then he is with the high angels, the righteous from the angels. والذي يقرأ القرآن ويتتعتع فيه وهو عليه شاق له أجران. And the one who recites the Quran and it is difficult for him and he has a problem pronouncing the words, and then he has 2 rewards. طيب أيهما أفضل? Who is better? طبعا الذي يقرأ القرآن والذي الماهر بالقرآن هو الأفضل, meaning that there's no doubt that the one who can recite the Quran and it is easy for him and it's smooth and he can recite it easily, he is better without a doubt. However, the one who struggles to recite the Quran, he has 2 rewards: the reward for the recitation of the Quran and the reward for his struggle and for his trying hard and for his hard work. نعم. الذي يقرأ القرآن ويتتعتع فيه وهو عليه شاق له أجران. يعني أجر التلاوة وأجر هذا الجهاد المشقة التي يجدها. نعم. طبعا الماهر أفضل, meaning that the one who recites the Quran perfectly and it is easy for him, he is better. نعم. على كل حال قال الشيخ رحمه الله لكن ننصحها أن تجعل المستفيدات يساعدنها بالنسوة الأخريات. This is something that is beneficial that the Sheikh rahimahullah mentioned. He said, but we recommend for her to seek the assistance of those who are better or those who are good, the strong students that she has, to help her with the weaker ones. من أجل أن يصبرن على المرأة التي عندها أخطاء حتى تصلح أخطاءها, so that they can remain patient with that woman who has mistakes until she corrects those mistakes. And this is something that is important, and Sheikh Muqbil rahimahullah was very good in this matter and was very diligent in making the students of knowledge who have studied for a period of time to actually start teaching, because one of the best ways to learn is to teach. So this is something that you will find repeatedly in this section of the book regarding knowledge and seeking knowledge, that you will find that the Shaykh rahimahullah will always recommend for the sisters, especially those who seek knowledge and study, to actually teach the sisters, to sit with their sisters and to teach them and to work with them and try to help them and guide them. نعم. May Allah have mercy on him. قال الشيخ رحمه الله واللحن الذي يغير المعنى هو الذي لا يجوز أن يقرأ به. But rather the mistakes which change the meanings are impermissible to recite with. قال مثل صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. انتبهوا, أنعمت هذا خطأ يغير المعنى, like saying, reciting صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم instead of أنعمت عليهم. This is a mistake that changes the meaning. This mistake changes the meaning because it comes to the meaning of the path of those whom I bestowed my mercy upon, rather than the path of those you bestowed your mercy upon. نعم. So this mistake changes the meaning. قال فإنه يجعل نفسه هو المنعم, because in this case he makes himself as he is the one who gave his bounty and his mercy. قال أما لحن ما يغير المعنى. As for mistakes that do not change the meaning, فلا بأس إن شاء الله. Then there's no harm if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills. والله المستعان. And we seek the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. نأخذ سؤالا آخر يعني من الذي ذكره أو مما يعني سئل من الأسئلة سئلها الشيخ رحمه الله. We'll take one more question that the author rahimahullah or the Sheikh rahimahullah was asked by some of the sisters. تقول السائلة, the sister asks, هل خروج النساء للدعوة إلى أماكن بعيدة مع محارمهن فيه تشبه بالرجال? Is the women going and leaving and traveling to call to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to call to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and spread the da'wah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to far places with their male relatives, does that fall under resembling the men? Does that fall under resembling the men? The Sheikh rahimahullah, قال الشيخ رحمه الله, لا بأس بذلك. He said there's no harm in that. بل ننصح بذلك, and rather we advise the women to do that. وقوله تعالى ولتكن منكم أمة يدعون إلى الخير, and let there be from amongst you a nation, or let you all be a nation that call to the good. يشمل الرجل والمرأة إذا خرجت مع محرم. This includes the men and the women if they were to leave with a male relative, unmarriable male relative, or of course her husband. قال وأيضا الله أثنى على النساء, and likewise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praised the women. فقال فاستجاب لهم ربهم أني لا أضيع عامل منكم من ذكر أو أنثى. And your Lord and their Lord has accepted their supplication, saying that I do not make the actions of anyone who acts and does righteous good deeds go waste from male or female. فالقول بأنه تشبه بالرجال يعتبر تشددا. He said, claiming that that going to call to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even including traveling, as long as she is with a mahram, with a male guardian, or with a unmarriable male relative, he said, claiming that it is imitating the men is actually going extreme. من للمسكينات اللاتي لا يعرفن عن دينهن شيئا. He said, who is for those poor sisters who do not know anything about their religion, poor from the perspective of that they do not have the knowledge, and this without a doubt is the greatest of loss. قال رب امرأة إذا أغضبها زوجها تنظر إلى السماء وتقول انظر ربنا ما أوسعه. How many women, perhaps, if their husband makes them angry, or he oppresses them, that she looks at the heavens and she says, look how wide and how vast and large our Lord is. تظن أن السماء هي ربنا. She thinks that the heavens is our Lord. نعم. ثم, and then the Sheikh rahimahullah, he went to mention قال وربما عندنا أيضا بعض العجائز تغني وتقول, and he said some of the old women they say and they sing اللهم صل على 12 نبي الأول محمد والثاني علي. That they sing and say, oh Allah, put your blessings upon 12 messengers or 12 prophets. The first of them is Muhammad and the second is Ali radiallahu anh. Meaning that they think that Ali radiallahu anh is a messenger or is a prophet with the messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And other than that, from the mistakes, قال فيجب أن نهتم بالنسوة. So we should pay attention to the women. أن نتركهن للسائحات للسائحين للحزبيين. He said, do we leave them for the hizbis, for the people of partisanships, for the people of falsehood, for the people of deviation? قال فالواجب أن يسارع أهل الخير لتلقين المسلمين عقائدهم الصحيحة. So the people of righteousness and the people of good, they should hasten to teach the Muslims their correct creed. نعم. ثم ذكر الشيخ أمثلة على بعض الشركيات التي تحدث من بعض النساء. So the Sheikh rahimahullah, he mentioned some examples of statements that are he mentioned examples of graves that are worshipped besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and deceased and dead people who are supplicated to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in different places. So he mentioned many examples which are very beneficial. However, we'll skip them because they are specific examples, and we should know that the supplication and the worship to other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is impermissible, regardless of who that person is that is worshipped besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or what the object is and where it is. Whether it is a righteous man, or a tree, or a stone, or an animal, or whatever it is, that any type of polytheism is impermissible, including the prophets and the messengers and the angels of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of that is considered polytheism, and it leads the person to the hellfire. We seek the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the author rahimahullah, or the Sheikh rahimahullah, in answering this question, he mentioned many examples. However, we will skip them, and we say in general it is obligatory upon the women to learn the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to learn their creed, and to learn how to single out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So from that perspective, this is something that the women, they should learn, and they should teach one another. They should teach monotheism and singling out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They should teach it to one another. So the Shaykh rahimahullah, like I said, he mentioned examples which we will skip. And basically it is examples of how women, they go to different graves and they ask them besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they ask the dead, and they write lines of poetry regarding that. So we seek the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in general, the Shaykh rahimahullah, may Allah have mercy on him, he gave excellent examples, and he in his answer rahimahullah afwan, he taught the women, by way of answering this question, what is obligatory upon them to learn from monotheism. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow all of us to benefit from that which we heard, and to give all of us the beneficial knowledge and the righteous good deed. And there is no doubt that the collection of those questions and answers, they started with a chapter of knowledge, and that is because, and they did not start, for example, with the matters of tawheed and shirk, monotheism and polytheism, or any of these things, because how does a person come to know about tawheed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how to stay away from associating partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It is by way of seeking knowledge. It is by way of learning and seeking knowledge. This is how one learns his religion, and this is how one comes to learn and understand the topic of monotheism and polytheism, and how to stay away from polytheism, and how to adhere to monotheism. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward the Shaykh, and we will stop here, and we'll continue in our next class if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.